Hey, so I want to talk about something that often is either not discussed, or it's forgotten, or it's just not considered um, important enough. And this is if you are in a relationship, if you're in a marriage, and that's suffering, it's suffering because of your pornography, your masturbation addiction. Once you begin the recovery process, right? You're going through the recovery you from this addiction, and you've had this talk. If you haven't, you need to. You've had a discussion with your spouse or with your significant other. It's not easy, of course, but once you have that discussion, then real healing can begin. I mean, is it easy? No, but it's not impossible. So there's a healing, there's a kind of a recovery of your relationship within your recovery from the addiction. And that's what I want to focus on right now in this video. And it's not going to be a very long one, be relatively short, but I want to give 3 kind of practical steps for this recovery within the recovery. The first is to realize that all of your emotions and all of the emotions that your spouse has, your significant other has, all the ups, the downs, the positives, the negatives, it's normal. It's kind of like it is a minefield, but you're not abnormal. You're not strange. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other couples that have gone through this betrayal. They've processed these emotions, and they've come out on the other side, and their relationship is even stronger. So one of the first kind of practical steps, practical tips I want to give you is you really need to start communicating, you and your significant other, you and your spouse, if you're married, you need to communicate at a different level than you have ever done before. And that means kind of like a daily check-in. Ask each other, how are you doing? How can I help you? What can I do maybe today for you that would make your day easier? See, one of the things that as addicts we did was we were using pornography, we were using masturbation as a crutch, as a supplement for the not just the physical, but also the emotional intimacy that we had allowed to fall off, to fall apart in this marriage, in the relationship. So now you're slowly building that foundation again. You're building it up. And again, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. Starting the communication, starting to have those talks. I would actually recommend to have like a marriage meeting or a state of the relationship meeting once a week. Pick a day, look at your schedules, actually schedule it. I know it might sound crazy or just totally ridiculous, but there's a benefit to this. Once you schedule it, you can then talk and communicate and express those feelings. And through the communication, you're going to get better, not just at communicating, but you're going to get better at understanding your spouse, understanding your significant other, and how you can, again, connect, maybe even reconnect, right? If that connection was broken for such a long time, reconnect the emotional intimacy. All right, so that's tip number 1. Reconnect the emotional intimacy through better communication. Schedule like a state of the relationship type of meeting once a week. Have this once a week. It's tip 1. Tip 2, or step 2, in this recovery in the recovery, is after you're doing these check-ins, after you're seeing how you can improve your communication, then you need to actually act. You need to be consistent in following through on what you've said you're going to do or how you're going to improve, right? So if you've made maybe not a promise, but at least if you've committed yourself to doing something for your spouse, make sure that you do that, right? So you have to be consistent. Be consistent in communicating. Be consistent in the action. Because the trust which was broken is slowly going to be rebuilt, but it's only going to be effectively rebuilt if your spouse, if your significant other sees that the action matches the words. So that's tip number 2. And then tip number 3 is have fun. The recovery within the recovery. You are reconnecting with the person that should be your best friend, actually, with the person that you fell in love with, whether that was 3 years ago or 10 years ago or how many months ago maybe it was. You have to recall, you have to remember, and you have to reconnect on that as well, right? So have fun. Here's another little thing: schedule like a date night, a fun part of the week. Perhaps you're stressed, you've got a lot of work, same perhaps thing is happening with your spouse or your significant other, but it doesn't mean that you can't schedule 20 minutes, 30 minutes of just couple time. If you have friends, if you have neighbors, if you have family that are nearby and you have children, they can take care of your kids. Play with them. If there's other neighbors nearby that have kids, the kids can play together. You owe your relationship the opportunity to flourish. And as much as you are rebuilding the trust, as much as you are rebuilding the emotional intimacy, those things can only happen if you dedicate a set time, especially during this recovery process. It's steps. It's a step-by-step recovery, and this is just one of those. And I say schedule again because it's the most effective. Spontaneity is awesome in a relationship, but in the beginning, it's best to actually try to schedule as much as possible within your conflicting schedules for work and other things, to actually schedule just a couple times. So that's it. It's very short. Try to use that best as possible. Be well. Blessings.